A woman walks alone down a narrow street in Lillehammer, Norway. It's the summer of 1973. At first glance, she looks like just another tourist. She has a camera hanging around her neck, dark sunglasses, a subtle smile. But she's not on vacation, she's hunting. And not for pleasure, but out of duty. No one suspects it, but this dark-haired woman with a calm gaze is one of the most enigmatic agents of the Israeli Mossad. Her real name, Sylvia Rafael, her alias Patricia Roxborough, South African photographer, Jewish, and spy. Her story begins long before this walk. She was born in 1937 in a small town in South Africa, the daughter of a Jewish man and her mother, a Christian. In a time when social segregation even separated the air, Sylvia already felt that she didn't fully belong to any world. Maybe that's why when she heard about Israel, her father's homeland, and about the rebirth of a people rising from its ashes, something was ignited inside her. She left her country, family, and comfortable life. She arrived in Israel without knowing anyone, without speaking Hebrew, but with a clear conviction she wanted to serve. And someone in an office at the Mossad saw a promise in that young woman. Her talent with the camera, her discretion, her ability to read faces made her the perfect profile to enlist her in Mossad missions. Thus, she began a rigorous training that would make her one of the first women to reach the rank of combatant undercover operations agent outside of Israel. From that moment, her name stopped being Sylvia and her life stopped being her own. What happened next would forever shape Israeli espionage history. A failed operation, a mistaken assassination, a foreign prison, and a love story that no one could have anticipated. But before getting to that point, we need to understand who this woman really was and why she chose to live her entire life in the shadows. Let's go back to Tel Aviv in the mid-60s in a windowless office. A Mossad man flips through a thin file. A young South African teacher with a degree, multilingual, no dangerous family ties, good command of English, discreet, patient, simply perfect. We're interested in your profile, they tell her in the interview, and she, without hesitation, replies, "I'm ready to serve." But she really had no idea, or at least she didn't grasp what the Israeli Mossad was all about. From that moment on, a process began that very few survived. She learned to use weapons, to change her accent, to forge documents, to disappear into the crowd. Her mind was trained to observe without being observed, to listen and remember even the silences. Her new identity? Patricia Roxborough, a Canadian press photographer. Her tool, a Nikon camera, her real weapon, information. The Mossad sent her to Paris, an epicenter of intrigue, diplomats, exiles, and of course, agents disguised as tourists. There, among cafes and newsrooms, Sylvia built herself an impeccable reputation, a photographer who could move through any embassy, cover events, cross borders without raising suspicion. Behind every roll of film she developed, there were hidden data, faces, addresses, exquisite information for the Mossad. Her passport was Canadian, her cover simply perfect. And her mission was to infiltrate Arab networks linked to terrorist groups and obtain critical information for Israel. During those years, she traveled through Jordan, Lebanon, and Yemen under different journalistic pretexts. While others saw deserts and ruins, she saw smuggling routes, contact points, possible hideouts. And when her work was done, no one knew she had been there. Espionage in those days had no satellites or drones. Everything depended 100% on human instinct, on a timely glance, on a decision made in seconds. Sylvia became a specialist in that, an invisible woman in the midst of chaos. But everyone knows that sooner or later, the mission comes that changes absolutely everything. The one that's not like the other operations, the one that can even go wrong. And his was about to begin in Norway. An operation that was supposed to be quick, clean, surgical, and ended up being one of Mossad's biggest mistakes in Europe in its entire history. A mission that would make Sylvia Rafael a famous spy, Not for what she accomplished, but for what she failed. Something important that several people have written to me in the comments of my videos, they say that for some reason they appear to be unsubscribed. So check if the same thing is happening to you and subscribe, obviously if you aren't already, so you don't miss any of this channel's posts. Alright, let's continue with our story. In July 1973, an urgent order arrives from Tel Aviv. The objective: eliminate Ali Hassan Salameh, the famous Red Prince, one of the architects of the Munich massacre. The people responsible for the attack that killed 11 Israeli athletes at the Olympic Games. Mossad wanted justice or revenge, or simply both. The operational team traveled to Lillehammer, a small and quiet city in Norway, a place so far removed from the conflict that it seemed impossible for anything to go wrong. But mistakes, when they happen, come in a chain. The team receives a tip-off. Salameh is here. The source seems reliable. Sylvia, under her false name, coordinates part of the logistics. Everything was planned with precision, but there was one detail. The man Sylvia was following was not Ali Hassan Salameh. It was Ahmed Bouchiki, a Moroccan waiter who had nothing to do with terrorism. On the night of July 27, when the innocent victim was returning home with his pregnant wife, the commando acted. Gunshots, chaos, and silence. In a matter of seconds, the mistake was already irreversible, and with it, the reputation of Mossad fell under a diplomatic storm. The Norwegian authorities reacted very quickly. They interrogated, tracked, and cross-checked names, and within a few days, several agents were arrested, including Sylvia Rafael. The scandal became worldwide and Israel remained silent. No confirmation, no denial. Norwegian newspapers published her face, but behind that official smile was a woman facing what no spy wants: to be discovered alive. The trial was brief but devastating. Sentenced to 5.5 years in prison for murder and espionage, she never revealed any information, never betrayed anyone, never broke the code. She spent 15 months in a foreign prison under an identity that no longer belonged to her, and when she was finally released, Norway deported her. She had entered Mossad as a shadow and came out of prison as a ghost. But even ghosts have love stories, and hers began where she least expected it. In the trial's hallways and courtroom, Sylvia sat upright and firm, showing no guilt. The press described her as cold, but what few knew was that in the midst of that process, something unpredictable began to happen. Her lawyer, Untold, fell in love with her, and she fell in love with him too. A Norwegian man defends an Israeli chess player from the Mossad, sparking an unexpected love. When Sylvia was released from prison, Aeneas was waiting. He left his country, friends, and reputation, and they married. They lived peaceful years between Norway and Israel, trying to build a normal life, although nothing in theirs could be normal. Sylvia had spent too much time being someone else. Her mind worked like an agent's, even when she was just a wife, a woman trying to laugh without thinking about anything. No passwords or emergency signals. Finally, they decided to move to South Africa, the country where it all began. There, Sylvia picked up a camera again, but this time not to spy but to create. Her photographs, many of them taken in Yemen and the Middle East during her years as an agent, were discovered several years later. Everyday scenes, children's faces, women among the desert dust. As if behind every shot of her camera, she was trying to redeem herself from those other shots that marked her life. Sylvia Rafael died in Pretoria in 2005 at age 67. Her remains were cremated and her ashes were taken to Israel, to the kibbutz Ramat Akobesh, where they rest today, alongside those of so many who served in silence. Years later, Israel officially recognized her service. They even named a street after her in Rosh Ein, a silent yet eloquent gesture, because here in Israel, the shadows also have memory. Sylvia Rafael was a convicted spy, artist, wife, and symbol of loyalty. And although her story ended far from the fugue, her life remains a reminder of what it truly means to live. To live in recognition, to love without guarantees, and to risk everything without expecting applause. If her story teaches us anything, it's that even the most invisible agents leave lasting marks. Because the true mission isn't always the one that's accomplished, but the one that marks us forever. The story of Sylvia Rafael is not that of a perfect heroine, nor that of a repentant villain. It's the story of a woman who chose to serve in silence and paid the highest price, oblivion. But when you hear her story one day, you understand something profound. In Israel, no one who has served the country ever truly disappears. Sooner or later, memory finds them. Every time a Mossad agent acts in silence, every operation carried out without anyone knowing their name. Is there a bit of Sylvia over there? And in the steady gaze, in the calm under pressure, in that almost sacred commitment to protect without asking for recognition, there is the Holy Spirit. And while I was preparing this video, was I thinking about something? Maybe the story of Sylvia Rafael is not just a story of espionage, but a story of love for a country that didn't even see her born, but was the only one she decided to die for if necessary. If you like this story, I invite you to subscribe to the Active channel. Don't leave without clicking the bell, giving a thumbs up, and of course, sharing this video. I'm Mary. See you.